kind of like how Chapter 6 opens. So the implication at this point is that Jesse and co are trying to find their way back home. And the best solution they have at the moment is to just go through random portals and hope it leads them back to their world. Given how many there are, this obviously isn't going very well, although this chapter begins with them popping into one that's kinda close, barring the two moons, which honestly is just a tad more creepy than it should be. We spawn in some kind of graveyard and find a book. We start to read it, which immediately sees us surrounded by zombies. Like, a lot of zombies. As for what the book itself says, it's an invitation to a house party, but we gotta head over there fast because, my god, that is a lot of zombies. We got this whole action sequence as we make our way over there to this giant mansion, figuring it's where the party must be, and we head inside. Though on the way we see presumably our host, a strange character wearing a white pumpkin on their head. When we eventually get inside, we find ourselves in some kitchen with two people arguing just outside. Before we know it, Whoa! Wait, that's Captain Sparkles. Oh my god, I watched that guy all the time. Wait, who's this other guy, though? The heck is a TheGamedawg? Is that anything like a game dog? Whoa, they just killed that guy. What? Whoa! Whoa! I mean, I know of these people. This is surreal. Oh my god, they just demonetized Captain Sparkles. Okay, this chapter moves quickly. Let's back up a bit. So on the back of the box, I remember seeing something that caught my interest a little bit, featuring fan favorites Stampy Cat, Dan DTM, Captain Sparkles, Stacy Plays, and LD Shadow Lady. For those of you who don't know this space very well, these are YouTubers, real-life people, all of which have several million subscribers and are also particularly known for playing Minecraft. Now, when you think of a YouTube cameo in a game, what comes to mind? Just that, right? A cameo. Like maybe they appear in one area or for one scene, get a line or two as an NPC, or even a facsimile of themselves that their fans can find and get excited about. What? That's Northern Light! What the? I watched that YouTuber a lot. Wait, why is Northern Light in this game? Maybe there's a reference to their channel in there somewhere. Although in this game's case, they're all specifically using their actual skins they are most known for playing as on their respective channels, though slightly modified to better fit the game's art style. And in terms of the characters themselves, it's like actually them. They even reference how many subscribers they have.
Captain Sparkles, I've got like 9 million fans?
This is so weird. Overall, this kind of cameo stuff may be a little cringy to some and may date that subtle part of your game in the long run, especially if said YouTuber got canceled at some point, but like, for the most part, it's a pretty harmless and fun practice, right? So I read that, and I was kind of curious where these YouTubers were going to show up. Chapter 1 went by, not a single one appeared. Then Chapter 2 passed, not a single one there either. Chapter 3, 4, 5, still no sign of these alleged YouTuber cameos. At this point, I was getting a little curious if I may have missed something. Like, maybe these cameos were hidden somewhere and I overlooked them somehow, or maybe many of them have shown up, and since I only actively follow one people of these 5, I just missed them. No. They're all in Chapter 6. Like, all of them. Every single one of them. This felt weird to me. Like, why all at once? I was not ready for what the game was about to throw at me. So anyway, Captain Sparkles and TheGamedawg. I'm sorry, this chapter is insane. I love it. These two barge in arguing over something, and we figured they must be other guests who were invited to this big party. We're trying to get some information on the place when suddenly the lights go out, and when they turn back on, TheGamedawg is dead.
Hey, Jesse. Jesse, come here. You've got a girl's name.
Those are his last words. You know, something kind of funny about that line is that if you're playing as the girl avatar, he says that Jesse's a boy name as his final words instead. His inventory gets sucked up, and Ivor tells us that the arrow that killed him are actually poison-tipped.
Oh, is it a tipped arrow? Oh, I've heard of those. They're still pretty new.
Huh. You know, that's actually a bit meta, considering at this point, tipped arrows were actually a pretty new feature. I think they were like less than a year old at this point. Suddenly, someone else comes in. LD Shadow Lady, voiced by LD Shadow Lady. Okay, that's a little redundant to do in this chapter, right? We meet up with all of the other people who were invited here. LD Shadow Lady, Stacy plays, Stampy Cat, Cassie Rose and her cat Winslow, and Dandy TM. We all talk about TheGamedawg's mysterious death and decide to ask around for clues and to get alibis from people, almost like this is adding up to be some kind of murder mystery or something. Wait. It was at this point that I realized what was going on here. Chapter 6 is a mansion murder mystery where all of the suspects and victims are Minecraft YouTubers playing themselves. Oh my lord. I thought these guys were just going to be like minute-long cameos at the very most, but no. This is the plot of Chapter 6. This is the core conflict. This is the theme of the day. Who thinks of this? I could not believe what I was playing here. This feels like the kind of thing you would come up with while bored at work, but not entertain past that. Like, it kind of reminds me of... Do you guys remember the FUPA controversy? Back around 2016, 2017... God, that was a while ago, so I might get some details wrong here. There was this YouTube drama where this creator named H3H3 made a reaction video to this video made by Bold Guy. And Bold Guy had issues with this, and in response tried to sue H3 over this video, claiming it was copyright infringement. And while it didn't go to court, it got far enough along in the legal proceedings that an actual judge took a look at it and issued a statement along the lines of, no, this is not copyright infringement because this clearly falls under fair use law. Which might not sound like a big deal, but what this proved to do was set up an unprecedented legal example of what does and does not count as fair use on YouTube, which was huge for the time. And while this was going on, this whole thing took like a couple months to resolve because, you know, American legal system. For a brief moment in history, I got this stupid idea in my head while bored at work of, what if someone made kind of an Ace Attorney style fan game where you played as the lawyer who helped H3 through a lot of that event, and you helped other YouTubers who notoriously have had to deal with copyright issues in the past? Like, a couple examples that came to mind were helping James Sterling during that time Digital Homicide tried to sue them for their negative review coverage of their game, or that time I Hate Everything was issued a bunch of takedowns by the director of Cool Cat Saves the Kids, mostly because I think cross-examining Cool Cat would have been hilarious. I mean, look at those eyes. He's hiding something, right? I think I made a Reddit thread talking about this at some point, but I genuinely can't find it anymore, but like, that's the most I ever went with this, right? However, for as stupid as that sounds, this sounds almost as dumb to me, and it's an officially licensed thing. Hey kids, have you ever wanted to accuse Stampy Longhead of homicide? You can do that in this game. They even gave them Danganronpa style death portraits. How is this real? I just have so many questions. Who thought of this? Who pitched this? Who didn't turn it down? Like, I don't know, a YouTuber's voice being featured on an NPC is one thing, a YouTuber being playable is something else, but the fact that enough stars have aligned to allow the existence of a product where you can indict popular YouTuber LD Shadow Lady for the murder of other popular YouTuber Captain Sparkles, and everyone was okay with this, including presumably Lizzie and Jordan themselves. Like, I don't know, man, maybe there is hope for humanity yet. While Chapter 5 may be my favorite part of the game for having the best writing, the most interesting scenario, the best mystery, etc., Chapter 6 was a very close second, if only for the dumbass smile I had on my face the entire time. Like, I really only know one person in this group that well, and how it's written by murder mystery standards is a bit cliche and doesn't take itself too seriously, to be perfectly honest. But with the context that these are real people in a profession I myself kind of want to be a part of one day, it just made the whole chapter a non-stop enjoyable time from beginning to end. Okay, let's get back on track. We talked to everyone just to get an idea of what's going on here. Apparently TheGamedawg was alleged to have some kind of rare item on him. Possibly that was stolen, and possibly that might have been another copy of the flint and steel that we used to get here in the first place. And we suspect this might have been why he was killed. Like, the person that he stole it from is trying to get it back.
So did you find anything out from Stacy or Sturdy Cat?
Stampy Cat?
Right.
Wait a second, that cat just moonwalked. You know, there's something kinda cursed about Winslow in general. Like, if you thought Ruben looked kinda cursed, imagine all of that same type of animation and design philosophy, but on a much thinner cat. Like, it looks really weird. Regardless, after we talk to everyone, Sparkles holds a meeting that ends with, Man, I can't believe Cats and Sparkles died. We obviously don't know who the culprit is, but we learn that at this point that their alter ego of who's ever behind all of this is the White Pumpkin. Jesse investigates the room to find a bunch of buttons underneath the table that activate the traps that just killed Sparkles, narrowing the list of suspects down to Dan, Stampy, Lizzie, and Lucas. So let's go ahead and interrogate all of them.
Who are you gonna interrogate first?
Dan.
So the murderer must have A, some kind of attachment to the flint and steel, B, extensive knowledge in redstone to build all the traps needed to kill people, and C, extensive knowledge in potions in order to make the tipped arrows. Dan originally found the steel, so he fits that first criteria. Lizzie apparently is a master of alchemy, and Stampy apparently knows redstone well, so that's the second and third criteria. On top of that, everyone is accusing and blaming each other, so even after the interrogation, it seems kinda up in the air who it could be. You know, I kind of wonder if these traits match their respective people at all. Is LD Shadow Lady good with potions? Is Stampy Longhead good with redstone? It'd be a nice attention to detail if that was the case. So that's some information gathered, but nothing 100% conclusive yet. Dan decides to lock himself in the libraries for his own safety. I think if you do accuse someone here, they get locked in the library instead. Everyone else heads off, and we decide to go back to the kitchen to maybe see if we can figure out how the first traps work. Here we notice that one of the paintings has eye holes in it and can be punched out, revealing a secret passageway. Okay, two things. First off, hiding a passage behind a painting is such a classic Minecraft trope that I can't help but love it here. And secondly, this got me curious to want to go back to TheGamedawg's death scene and see if maybe you can see eyes behind the painting during that. You can't. Kind of disappointed, actually. That would have been a really cool attention to detail. Following the pathway, we find that it links up to more of the house and contains several levers that activate traps. So, at least we know how the White Pumpkin is getting around and killing people now. And, oh hey, here's the library.
I snuck in past that blonde guy. Lucas, I think. We have to talk.
About what?
About how we can teleport around, apparently. Oh hey, there's the White Pumpkin right there. They activate a spider trap, killing Lizzie, and actually, who dies here can actually change depending on who you accuse a couple scenes ago, and if you decide to help out here instead of following the White Pumpkin. XCage decides to follow the killer into the passageway, though, leading back to the main lobby. Lucas joins the chase, but then the pumpkin frames him for being the killer by shoving their pumpkin on his head, and now all the YouTubers are blaming him. It'd probably be best to lock him in a closet for now, just to make everyone happy. We investigate a bit, find another secret passageway. While going down, it is revealed that the White Pumpkin has actually been making the zombies that chased us in here by utilizing a zombie spawner. God, that's a niche block that with a lot of cool properties to it. It's cool to see it referenced here. We also find a pool that's collecting people's loot after they die, a pumpkin farm, and
Stampy cat?
Stampy jump scare. He snuck down here too and reveals to us that apparently he stole the magic flint and steel. This one is green. Well, I guess he's along for the ride for now, just as we come across an evil lair, with tons of chests containing the loot of everyone who's been killed, and calico cats. Who else has a calico cat?
Ugh, cats give me the creeps. No offense, Stampy.
None taken. I'm not really a cat.
I like that line. One thing we find down here are death portraits for everyone who's currently still alive, and Cassie's is suspiciously missing. This is our key evidence. It must be her, so let's head back up and interrogate the real killer. It turns out that's correct. She has her Ace Attorney style breakdown ending with her falling into one of her own traps and dying herself. Jeez. Morning's just about come, which means the zombies are burning up, so we can finally go outside again. At this point, it's brought up that we've yet to find the exit portal to get out of this world. Okay, never mind, there it is. Alright, let's go ahead and lay it up and... turns out this was also a trap. This is also a trap. We're dropped into a pit with endermites at the bottom, and Cassie at the top. She lived, and she's ready to fight us for that flint and steel. This is an action sequence, and it gives us an introduction to ender pearls. In Minecraft, how they work is you throw one, and then you instantly teleport to where it lands. Kind of a cool mechanic, actually. And here, not only do we use it a bunch to get around, but Cassie uses them a lot in her own fighting style. Again, with this game having really cool, unique fighting styles for each character. This sequence is actually kind of fun, too. It uses a lot of different mechanics of how ender pearls, flint and steel, netherrack, levers, sand, among other things work, and makes for a battle that really feels like it could only happen in a Minecraft universe. Kinda wish there was more stuff like this in the game, to be honest. And you gotta love this part where the cat pushes the flint off the ledge. Classic cats.
Hey, cats suck!
What did you say?
You heard me, cats suck. Pigs are way cooler.
We win and leave her on a suspended platform above the pit of endermites. That is kind of morbid, actually. And we find the real portal, light it, and go on through. End of chapter.
Alright, what's going on, dudes? It's me, Captain Sparkles. Next time on Minecraft Story Mode.
Oh yeah, I typically haven't been mentioning these stay tuned for next time segments that bookend each chapter, but I'm gonna make an exception here because Captain Sparkles is doing it!
Well, I guess I'll never know because I got pounded into the ground by a ton of sand. I guess you saw that, right? I'm in the middle of an amazing speech, and boom! I've suddenly become part of the floor.
My guess is that they must have felt bad for not giving him as many lines as a lot of the other cameo characters due to how early he dies, so they just let him do this, and I like it. He sounds like he's having a lot of fun. God, I love this part of the game. Like, how can I not? It's ridiculous. It's my kind of ridiculous. We're not quite done yet here, though. Okay, for this specific episode, I wanted to leave my miscellaneous stuff for the end, actually, because I thought it would just make the video flow better. Because I want to talk more about the YouTubers. So, remember how I've talked about how I feel like the writers behind this series must be actual Minecraft fans? Mostly due to how often they reference terminology you typically only see in the fan community? Well, I kind of have a reason to believe that this extends to the YouTubers as well, because there's a lot of things they do and say that I can only guess are references to their own channels. I wear it like that because, again, of all of these folks, I really only watch Captain Sparkles, but given some of the references I noticed with him, along with some of the oddly specific details present with some of the other characters, this is just a logical conclusion. Like, for example, at this point, Captain Sparkles apologizes for his language after using the word darn.
What the heck is going on here? Darn. Sorry for the language.
Which is actually very much a reference to his channel. He is very adamant that his channel stays, like, family-friendly, and this, of course, means no swearing allowed. So what he sometimes does is he, like, replaces actual swear words with other words. Like, instead of the F word, he would say fork. And this has kind of led to a reputation that he just never swears. Like, it's a funny channel gimmick, and that's a really funny way to reference that. Now, on to stuff I'm not 100% concrete about, but am pretty certain are references to stuff is, at one point Stampy calls zombies googlies.
What? Outside?
Where all the googlies are?
Like, that has to be a reference to his own channel, right? That's so random. There's also this running gag where Dan's hair changes color every single scene. Like, seriously, he's like freaking Florent LaBelle over here, who coincidentally is also from a murder mystery game. I guess Dan might be known for dyeing his hair a lot, and if that is the case, that is a pretty hilarious way to reference that in the game. While working on this script, I stumbled upon this great video that's a compilation of every YouTuber's reactions to themselves, since apparently they all Let's Play the game. It's pretty entertaining in its own right, but it also gives us some pretty interesting insight into how all of them worked with Telltale if you're paying attention. Particularly from Stampy, actually. For one, he mentioned some trivia regarding his own skin. So, for those of you who follow the guy, you might have realized that his skin in this game isn't actually the skin he uses on his YouTube, and he's unique for being the only character like that. His normal skin looks like this, and he was talking with folks working on the game, and they mentioned that it might look super weird for a man-sized anthropomorphic cat to just appear in the game 6 chapters in with no explanation, since every character in the game so far has been undeniably a human. So what they decided to do was make his story mode skin look like him IRL, but also make him wear a hoodie that resembles his actual skin. As you can see, there's the cat face of his actual skin on top, and because he's just wearing it over his head. That is kind of a brilliant compromise given what they had to work with. You know, I'm also kind of glad they changed this skin because, between you and me, I'm sure he's a cool guy, but I actually never really liked his skin. Like, I don't know, it just looks really weird to me. It looks like what would happen if you took that fox fairy from Dust and Elysian Tale and, I don't know, microwaved her. There's also a line here where he drops that when they were given which lines they'd have to read for the game, they were just given them in a big list, presumably void of all context they would be used in, which is typically a horrible idea from a voice direction standpoint, but in this particular situation, where you're kind of expecting your actors to react blindly to their own performances later like this, it works. Case in point, the game portrays Stacy as kind of comedically rude, and I don't think real-life Stacy was expecting that, leading to probably some of the best reactions in the video.
Okay, that's the wall. Look how mad I am! Oh, that side eye.
After everyone she's hurt, she can dig herself out.
Stand with Stacy? No, it's dig for Cassie. Oh my gosh! Stand with Stacy? What? I'm such a meanie!
Speaking of Stacy, apparently she was planning to get a death scene, but Telltale had to cut it because they didn't quite have the budget for it. Huh. You know, call me crazy, but for some reason I kind of always predicted that the second half of this game had a lower budget than the first, mostly through anecdotal evidence, admittedly. Christ, that is a hard word to spell. Stuff like, say, how the locations of each chapter so far have had less scope and felt less grandiose, if that makes sense. Like, take Chapter 1, for example. We've had the treehouse, this transitional area, the building competition, some woods, a cave, another cave, a bridge, Minecon, a stage at Minecon, a creepy basement at Minecon, an overworld where they're escaping Minecon, Gabriel's Temple, the Nether, a huge minecart escape area, the Nether's exit portal and exit area, another treehouse, the Order's Temple. Meanwhile, in Chapter 5, it's just the jungle, an underground area, the town, Skyblock City, which is kind of big, but, like, it's still one area, and the overworld area below Skyblock City. Chapter 6 is just this swamp in this mansion. That's admittedly also pretty big, but still just one location. Every area would presumably need money to make work, so less of a budget would kind of force the developers to keep these chapters more contained to fewer areas. And call me crazy, I actually think this has kind of worked out in the game's favor. Since you have more time to explore these areas, they stick out more in your head, and require that the developers be more creative with them. A really good example of working well with your limitations. This also extends to the voice actors too. The first half of the game had all these huge name actors that even I recognized, but now that we're in the second half, going to the IMDb pages of a lot of these folks, I've noticed that their list of roles were a lot shorter. Now, I know that less popular doesn't necessarily translate to worse, especially in a field like voice acting, but you can't deny that these factors would have resulted in less costly roles for the company. Heck, there's even situations like Melissa Hutchings as the founder who, I forgot to mention this, but she's probably most well known for voicing a character in another Telltale game. So I'd imagine she probably would have been very easy to approach to do a new character, given they had good history together. I don't know, they had less of a budget for the second half theory is really just that, just a theory. A game theory, if you will. But it's the kind of thing where I'd be surprised if it wasn't the case. There's one last funny tidbit I wanted to talk about with the YouTubers. Apparently LD Shadow Lady really wanted to be the killer, and, you know, they should have gave her that role. I don't know, I think it would have been really funny, and it also would have cleared up space for another actual YouTuber. Yeah, we're going to talk about that now too. So, an elephant in the room you might have noticed is that two of these people aren't actually real-life YouTubers. TheGamedawg and Cassie Rose. They're voiced by Adam Harrison and Ashley Birch, who, as far as I'm concerned, do not play Minecraft for a living. It's kind of weird, right? Like, all of these new characters in this chapter have had this one thing in common, except for them. And I can't really find a reason for why they would be here online, although I do have two hypotheses. Firstly, maybe they just couldn't get 2 more cameos before they had to work on the game. I mean, this many guest actors must have been hard to get together in and of itself, and maybe they had plans to include 2 more that just couldn't make it or didn't want to do it for whatever reason. So at the last minute, they kinda made up 2 people with YouTuber-y sounding names to replace them. My second theory is that this was done deliberately given the roles these 2 play. In a mystery game, especially a murder mystery, the first victim and the first culprit are very pivotal roles. You want characters here who will make an extremely strong first impression, but at the same time, not someone people would particularly miss, since they'll likely be removed from the story very early, possibly permanently. And I find what a lot of writers will often do is make these characters either a big jerk or a big creep. And that very much checks out here. TheGamedawg is kind of an asshole. Not a funny asshole like what they did with Stacy, but just undeniably a jerk that no one likes. And well, okay, if I was getting a bunch of guest actors together who would presumably not know the context to their lines, and I want to stay on good terms with them, I wouldn't give them a role like TheGamedawg, you know? Like, that makes sense, right? Although, as for Cassie, I mean, one of the YouTubers volunteered to be the killer, so I don't know why they felt the need to make up a whole new character there. My guess is that it might be for lore reasons, as near the end they implied that she might have been an old builder.
Cassie, what's-her-name, was talking about being trapped here from another world. What if she was one of the old builders?
I don't know. But yeah, God, this was a fun chapter to look through. Anyway, that will be the end for now. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, Royalbot, Sean, and Great Wolf. Thank you all for watching. Please consider giving the video a like and sharing if you enjoyed it. Next time we will talk about Chapter 7, which is also pretty great. Alright, I'll see you folks later. Thanks for watching.